Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the grayscale trusts, mainly LTCN, BCHG, and HZEN. Let's get it. So take a look at the chart here of LTCN. You guys can basically see that we are still uptrending on this chart. We have not had a close above the resistance or these previous candle closes up here at 1450 to about $15. Until we get that, I would say that it's not looking super bullish yet. We're still kind of getting squeezed in between the EMAs and the resistance. And obviously this most current trend line here is holding, as you guys can see, and then you have this one down here. So pretty much going to reiterate the same thing I said last time, which is if we get a breakdown of the EMAs, rejection off the resistance, breakdown below the EMAs and the trend line, pretty much expecting it to head anywhere from $7 to maybe roughly about $10.50 a share. That's going to obviously be support. And the resistance still remains between as high as 18.80 or 19, we'll just say, to roughly about $13. So if we do the measure move here from basically from the trend line, let's say, to the previous all-time high, you're looking at roughly about 50%. If we measure it from, we'll say you got it in between the EMAs, if we get lucky enough to get back down there, it's about a 95% move. And just so you guys can see here, we do currently actually have more LTCN. We just bought in this morning at an average price of $13.23. We're already back in profit, which is not really surprising because crypto as a whole is just moonshotting today. The Bitcoin miner stocks are moonshotting too. And we have been telling you guys for weeks now that, a lot of these cryptos are sitting at support zones, especially the Bitcoin miners. So anyways, regardless, we're back in. If this thing does a 40x, obviously you guys can do simple math, right? This is going to be a lot more money than what it currently is right now. So we expect that this thing's probably going to do at least a 30 to 40x from here. It could, if it goes to $1,000, it could be potentially like a 60, 70x. That'd be awesome. I wouldn't be upset about that. So, but do keep in mind, we actually have way more money in native cryptocurrencies than we do the Grayscale Trust. So we're not really too concerned about getting back in at $5 a share. More so concerned about just making sure that we place our positions in crypto at the right prices and we're not chasing the rallies. So that's LTCN. Now we'll take a look at HZEN. It does appear that the trend line did actually break on oil, and we have a short on this right now. So hopefully it ends up going our way. We'll see. So HZEN's looking very bullish at the moment. It looks like it's trying to push above this previous resistance here. We'll just have to wait and see. I would still say that support is going to sit between 250 to 280 a share because, again, this thing is massively overextended. As you guys know, on LTCN and BCHG, when we saw the RSI get this overextended, it did end up dropping back down. So that's kind of why we're saying that. And then your resistance is going to be between 377 to 422 unless we get a confirmation above the resistance zone. So the measured moves here would be roughly about 63% if you got it in the support zone. And if it goes even lower than that, let's just say it goes back down here, which I'm not sure at this point is going to, but it could happen. It'd be a 156% move. BCHG, once again, very similar to LTCN. It's getting squeezed in between the trend line and the EMAs. Just so y'all know, the formation that's happening on LTCN and BCHG right now could actually be considered to be an ascending triangle. Okay. For those of you guys that don't know what price patterns are, it's basically a way to help predict the movement of the upcoming movement of a particular stock. Of course, we always wait for confirmation. But if this truly is an ascending triangle, meaning that we're basically the wicks or bottom of these keep moving up and the resistance is holding, that's generally building bullish pressure into the resistance, which means it's going to have a massive upside move. If that is to happen, basically what that would mean is that the price of BCHG and LTCN are going to have a massive squeeze to the upside. But again, we don't have confirmation yet. So basically we'd be looking for a body close above resistance on Grayscale and LTCN. And as a matter of fact, I can show you guys another chart right now where this did actually happen. So this is a stock that we are also invested into. You guys know we currently have a swing trade on this. So here's a good example of what a ascending triangle looks like. So you get all these higher lows going on here. So this low, and then this one's higher, 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 higher. And then the resistance is holding, and eventually the sellers cannot hold anymore, and the buyers squeeze the price up. Shorts are forced to close their positions, which means they have to buy back, which is bullish. And then the price squeezes and moonshots to the upside. So this is what it would look like if LTCN and BCHG were to actually break out of the ascending triangle to the upside. So we'll get back into it real quick. So let me get back over to the weekly now that you guys have seen what an ascending triangle actually looks like. So as of right now, I would still say support is going to sit somewhere between 250 to about 315 unless we get confirmation. Resistance is the current level, which is 380 to 416 or 420, we'll just say. And 540 to 580 would be the next resistance level. So if you were just to pick up along this trend line, you'd be looking at anywhere from a minimum of 20% to 39%, 55%, and 67% respectively. And if you got it down here in these zones, which would be pretty cheap in my opinion, it could be 39%, 52%, 88%, 95%, and about 110% respectively on those particular price targets. So XLM, or GXLM, my bad, GXLM. So there is this rising wedge we broke out of. There's also something else I want to point out here. Okay, never mind. I'm tripping. So I was thinking I was seeing something else there, but there's nothing there. So once again, I would say if I was going to buy GXLM, I'd buy somewhere around $17. That's just my opinion. So macro support between $4 to $11.30. Macro resistance between $53 to $58. If you manage to get it around $17, I mean the profit target's pretty good, about 210% to about 240. So that's a pretty big move. If you got it down here all the way at this macro support, which again, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but just to get back into the wedge is 316%, 540%, and 614% respectively. So you could be taking a look at potentially as much as easily as 6x. So ETH, this one's moonshotting. Again, not really surprising because Bitcoin and Ethereum are moving up today. It seems to just be defying all logic and expectations at this point. As you guys can see, they're still moving up, which is quite shocking. We do actually own a small amount of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin just to have some exposure. But it is actually moving up still, which, again, I'm going to reiterate what I said before. There's this old adage that goes on that people say in the traditional markets where they say that markets can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. I would still argue that there could be a potential pullback in Bitcoin and altcoins at some point in the future before the bull run starts. But, I'm not God. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. So it could just keep going up. Who knows? If it keeps going up, not going to be upset about that because we're already positioned for that. So the support zone sits between $17 and $19. The resistance is between $25.50 and $29, and this is the macro support, $2 to $4.70, which I highly doubt it's going to go back to at this point. So we'll just say you got the measured move from the support zone. You'd be looking at 44% to about 65% or so in the immediate short term. Okay, so this is the ETH Classic Trust. We could actually kind of draw like what looks like also. There's a couple different patterns going on here. So this could potentially be a bull flag, but it could also be an ascending triangle. So that's a bit weird, but either way, it does look pretty bullish. I would still say that support is between 1070 to about roughly about 1180 a share. Resistance is going to be between $13 to about $16, and the macro support is $3 to $5. Could it go back down to that level? Sure, but I would say the probability is pretty low at this point. So you could be looking at anywhere from 21% to 45% in the immediate short term. So now moving on to Zcash. This one has squeezed to the upside, which I guess I'm not really surprised by. I mean, it was kind of coiling in this, what looks to be like some kind of range here for a while. Generally speaking, at some point it does break out of the range, whether it goes up or down or not. Well, obviously it's probably smart to wait for confirmation, but we got a breakout. So at this point, I would say that support's going to sit somewhere between 310 to about 270 a share. And until we get a confirmation above this resistance, it is still resistance, but the resistance above that is going to be 440 to about $5 a share. So if we go ahead and say you just got in just below this range, let's say it just came back down and wicked down in there before popping back to the upside, you get about 48% to about 72% on this move. GSOL, this thing is just absolutely defying all logic and technical rationale at this point. So I know a lot of people are very bullish on Solana. That's fine. We're just simply not going to buy at the top. That's just how we do it. I would say if we were going to buy, we would probably start buying somewhere between 150 to roughly about 180 at this point. The macro support is between $80 to about $90. Whether it gets back down to that level or not, I don't know at this point. This resistance zone here has turned into support, so it would have to snap that resistance zone and go back down to get back down there. But if we were to take that measured move, let's just say on a small dip, you'd be looking at 74%. Obviously, this thing is in price discovery, so I mean, GSOL could go up, I mean, theoretically, infinitely if it wanted to. I would say $500 a share is probably not out of the cards with the way that this thing is moving as of late. So Mana, once again, this thing is range bound. It does not seem to want to go down. So there is that. We do hold the actual Decentraland token, just so y'all know. That is this one right here, the Mana USD, or it's also called Decentraland. But we do not hold any of the grayscale ones. So I would say if we were going to buy, since it's still in this range, we'd be looking at somewhere between basically 1070 to about 1360 a share. Resistance is 1750 to roughly about $20 a share, and macro support is 150 a share to about, I would say, 360 a share. So if we got the measured move between the EMAs here, we'd be looking at roughly about 47% to as high as, well, we'll just go to the top of this wick here. We'll say roughly about 125%. That's a pretty good move. GBAT has had a bullish breakout of this downtrend here, as you guys can see. This is not a price pattern. This technically right here, this support zone and this trend line would be a descending triangle, but because the price is moving up, that's not really what we were doing here. We're basically just looking for a break up out of this trend line. So macro support is between 70 cents to about $1.20. Don't think it's going to get back down there, but you never know. $4.50 to $5 is the current support, and the resistance is just shy of $10 a share. So if you manage to, let's say, get it in between the blue and the yellow EMAs, let's just say that it wicks down there and you get in on the dip, you'd be looking at roughly about 63% on this move. And again, I believe this thing is in price discovery right now, so sky is the limit. We do actually own a couple of positions that are in price discovery currently. Those are a couple of AI tokens, and that is Fetch and AIOZ. Those have recently broken the previous all-time highs. We plan on picking up more AI tokens. Just, of course, we are DCAing in. We're not going to lump sum all in all at once. We did that back in 2022, and we've just been DCAing in ever since. So G-Link, macro support, $7 to about $9.60. The current support is $39.50 to about $45, and then your, of course, all-time high is $96. This thing's looking pretty overextended. I'd be waiting for a pullback if it was me. I'd probably get in somewhere between, I'd say, $40 to about $55. So if you take the measured move from halfway in between that, It's about 100% just to get back to all-time highs. That does not including if it just keeps going up. So Phil G, this thing is really, really overextended at this point. I mean, we're at $115, and the first support zone is down here at roughly about 40. So that if it does pull back, I'm not saying it's going to, but if it does pull back, it's going to be a really nasty pullback. So us personally, we'd be waiting to get in somewhere between 40 to about 57 a share just to kind of minimize that downside. And of course, the macro support is between 440 to about $12 a share. So if you waited for the pullback, you'd get roughly about 150% on that move. So here's GLIV. This one's looking, I'd say, relatively bullish. If we just kind of draw this downtrend here, you can kind of see how these candle formations line up. We had a breakout of it, and then obviously it looks like we're poised to potentially move even higher here on what looks to be like a very small, mini-sized kind of bull flag formation going on here. I would not be buying this on the pretense of a bull flag. I'd wait for a pullback, but that's just me. So support is between 12.30 a share to about 14.80. Macro support is between just shy of $2 to about just shy of $4, and the all-time high is at roughly about $29 a share. So if you waited to get in at this zone, you'd be looking at roughly about 120% move to the upside. And keep in mind, on Coinbase, USDC is actually currently paying 5% to stake USDC, or basically the equivalent of USD. So if you cashed out for some profit, said, well, you know what, I don't really want to get back in. Prices are expensive. I want to wait for the dip. You could just sit there and collect 5% on your USDC, and you could convert that to USD anytime you want while you're waiting for a dip buy. But this is pretty much what it would look like. So, not a bad deal to be getting paid while you're waiting to buy the dip to then again get paid, right? Pretty good deal if you ask me. So anyways, these are the grayscale trusts as of currently. I would say LTCN and BCHG is definitely more and more looking like it might have a massive squeeze to the upside. We'll just have to wait and see. But I hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.